The sun-drenched vineyards of Napa Valley stretched out like a golden promise on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I stood at the altar in a crisp black tuxedo. My family had insisted on the finest Italian cut, watching the guests shift uncomfortably in their seats as minutes turned into an agonizing eternity. Ethan, my groom, and the man I thought I loved had vanished without a trace, leaving me alone with the crushing weight of our family's expectations and the shocking realization that his identical twin brother Evan was now stepping into his place as the only way to salvage the merger that bound our two wine empires together. My name is Alex Thompson, and at 28 I had built a reputation as the reliable heir to Thompson Vineyards, the man who always did what was expected even when it meant burying my own desires deep inside. Growing up in the conservative circles of Northern California, being gay was something whispered about, never celebrated, and my parents had made it clear that a stable marriage to a Blackwood was the key to expanding our legacy. Ethan and I had dated discreetly for 2 years, our connection built on shared laughs over wine tastings and quiet nights discussing business plans, but now with the ring still in my pocket and the officiant clearing his throat awkwardly, I felt the first crack in my carefully constructed world. The Blackwood family estate overlooked the valley, their sprawling mansion, a symbol of old money power, and Evan, who looked exactly like Ethan down to the sharp jawline and piercing green eyes, stood before me with a stoic expression that hid whatever storm was brewing inside him. Why had Ethan run? The question burned in my mind as our fathers huddled in the back, exchanging urgent whispers, their faces pale with the fear of scandal. The wedding was more than a union, it was a contract sealing the merger of Thompson and Blackwood Wines, a deal worth millions that would dominate the California market. Canceling it now would mean lawsuits, lost investments, and public humiliation for both families who had poured years into this alliance. I glanced at Evan, who met my gaze with a nod that felt both apologetic and resolute. He was the twin who had always lived in Ethan's shadow, working quietly in the background, managing the vineyards while his brother charmed investors. But today he was being thrust into the spotlight, not by choice but by necessity. My mother gripped my arm, her nails digging in as she hissed, "Do this for us, Alex, or everything we've built falls apart." The pressure was suffocating, a mix of familial duty and societal judgment that left no room for my breaking heart. As the ceremony proceeded in a rushed haze, the vows felt hollow yet binding. I slipped the ring onto Evan's finger, our hands trembling slightly, the identical features making it surreal, like marrying a ghost. Guests murmured their sympathies mixed with judgment, but the deal was done. We were married, now husbands in the eyes of the law and our families. Driving away from the venue in the black limousine, the silence between Evan and me was thicker than the Napa fog. He finally spoke, his voice low and measured. "Alex, I know this isn't what you wanted." "Ethan." He had his reasons, but I promise I'll do right by you. "Reasons?" I snapped, my voice cracking with anger and confusion. "He left me at the altar, Evan. On our wedding day. How am I supposed to trust you when you look just like him?" He sighed, looking out the window at the rolling hills dotted with grapevines. "Because I'm not him. And maybe in time you'll see that." The weight of the decision settled heavily on my chest, this forced marriage, a product of betrayal and ambition that would test every ounce of my resolve. Little did I know the real conflicts were just beginning as secrets from our pasts threatened to unravel everything. That evening at the reception, which went on despite the chaos to maintain appearances, I watched Evan navigate the crowd with the same grace Ethan had possessed, but there was a subtle difference, a quiet intensity in his eyes that hinted at depths I had never explored with his brother. My father pulled me aside, his face stern, reminding me that this swap was temporary in name. Only the marriage had to stand to close the merger or face financial ruin. The societal pressures were immense in our world, where appearances mattered more than feelings. Being gay was tolerated only if it came with power and stability. Marrying a twin felt like a moral minefield, a choice that skirted the edges of deception yet promised salvation for our families. As the night wore on, I felt the internal tug-of-war rage within me, grief for Ethan, the man I thought I knew, betrayal at his abandonment, and a confusing spark of curiosity about Evan, who now shared my last name. The price was already high, my heart fractured, but the story of our union was only starting its painful chapter. The first week of our marriage was a tense dance of avoidance and obligation in the luxurious Blackwood estate that now served as our home. Evan had moved into the master suite with me out of necessity to keep up the facade, but we slept on opposite sides of the king-sized bed like strangers thrown together by fate. Mornings brought the routine of breakfast in the sunlit dining room where our families visited frequently to ensure the merger documents were progressing smoothly. My internal conflict gnawed at me constantly. How could I share a life with someone who was the mirror image of the man who had abandoned me? Every glance at Evan brought a rush of memories, the way Ethan used to smile, the shared history, but also the sting of rejection. Evan, on the other hand, was patient, almost too patient, cooking simple meals from the estate's garden and discussing vineyard operations with a focus that showed his dedication to the family business. One afternoon, as we walked through the rows of Cabernet Sauvignon vines, the autumn breeze carrying the scent of ripening grapes, I confronted him directly. "Why did you agree to this, Evan?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with accusation. "You could have refused, walked away like your brother." He stopped, picking a leaf and crushing it between his fingers. "Because refusing would have destroyed more than just the merger. Our families have intertwined finances, Alex. Loans, mortgages, the entire operation. And Ethan, he left because he couldn't live the lie anymore." "Lie?" I pressed, stepping closer, the proximity making the resemblance even more unnerving. "What lie?" Evan hesitated, his green eyes meeting mine with a vulnerability I hadn't expected. "He wasn't in love with you, not the way you deserved. There was someone else, a woman from his college days. He ran because coming out as straight in this gay arranged marriage would have shattered the family image." The revelation hit like a punch, the betrayal deepening, as I realized my relationship with Ethan had been built on sand. Family pressure intensified with daily calls from my mother reminding me of the social stigma of a failed high-profile gay wedding in Napa, where gossip spread like wildfire through the wine community. Prejudices lingered even in progressive California circles where being gay was accepted, but only if it fit the narrative of perfect unions without scandals. Evan opened up, gradually revealing his own struggles as the overlooked twin, always expected to support but never lead. He had sacrificed personal dreams of traveling to manage the vineyards, staying close to support his brother. Now, with Ethan gone, he felt the weight of expectations shift onto him, including this marriage. Our conversations stretched late into the night, discussing not just business but life, dreams, and fears, slowly chipping away at the wall between us. Yet the moral dilemma loomed. Marrying the twin felt like settling for a copy, a decision that questioned my integrity. Was I honoring my commitment or perpetuating a fraud for financial gain? Tensions rose during a family dinner where Evan's father praised the swap as a smart business move, while my parents nodded approvingly, ignoring the human cost. I excused myself to the balcony, overlooking the valley stars twinkling like distant hopes as Evan joined me. "I didn't choose this either, Alex," he said softly, "but I'm choosing to make it work." His hand brushed mine, sending an unexpected jolt, the first real emotional connection amid the chaos. But trust was fragile, and as whispers of Ethan's whereabouts began to surface, the story took a darker turn, forcing me to face the price of my forced loyalty. The awakening was slow, painful, but undeniable as I began to see Evan not as a replacement but as someone carrying his own burdens. Confrontations became the norm as weeks turned into months, the initial shock giving way to a tense domesticity that masked deeper rifts. One evening, after a long day negotiating merger terms with investors, I returned to find Evan in the study, poring over old family photos. His face was etched with sorrow as he pointed to images of him and Ethan as children, identical in every way yet worlds apart in personality. "I never wanted to be the substitute," he confessed, his voice breaking slightly. "Ethan was the golden boy, always the one with charm and ambition. I was the quiet one, content with dirt under my nails and the rhythm of the seasons. But when he left, I couldn't let the family crumble." The admission humanized him, chipping at my resentment and stirring a reluctant empathy. Societal pressures mounted with invitations to Napa social events where we had to play the perfect couple. At a charity wine auction, guests cast curious glances, some supportive, others judgmental, about the twin swap which had leaked through servants' gossip. Being gay in these circles meant navigating prejudice with grace, but this added layer of controversy fueled rumors of desperation and deceit. My internal turmoil peaked during a heated argument when I accused Evan of enabling his brother's betrayal. "You knew, didn't you?" I shouted. "You knew he was leaving and you stepped in without warning me." Evan stood his ground, his eyes flashing with hurt. I found out the night before Alex. He begged me to cover for him to keep the peace. I agreed because I care about this family, about you more than you realize. The words hung heavy, opening a door to unexplored feelings. Betrayal surfaced when a private investigator my father hired revealed Ethan was living in San Francisco with his girlfriend, planning a new life free from the arranged expectations. The news devastated me, not just the loss but the realization that my love had been one-sided, a tool in a larger game of family alliances. Evan comforted me that night, his presence a steady anchor as tears fell. We talked for hours, exploring the moral gray area of our marriage. Was it wrong to build something real on the ruins of deception? The decision to stay married was controversial, even to myself, weighing love against loyalty. Gradually, shared moments built like late-night vineyard walks where Evan shared stories of his lonely childhood, and I confided my fears of never being enough. The tension escalated when Ethan contacted Evan, secretly asking for money to start over, forcing a choice between brothers and the new life we were forging. I insisted on confronting the truth head-on, leading to a family meeting filled with accusations and revelations that exposed the deep cracks in our foundations. The price was evident in strained relationships and sleepless nights, but also in the slow dawn of understanding that perhaps this twist of fate was an opportunity for genuine connection. As conflicts intensified, the story hurtled toward greater reckonings where every action carried irreversible consequences. The call from Ethan came like a ghost from the past, his voice shaky over the phone, as he asked Evan to meet him in a quiet cafe in downtown Napa. I insisted on going to, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and unresolved love. There, in the dimly lit booth, Ethan explained his fears, the pressure of performing as the perfect gay heir when his heart lay elsewhere, the arranged marriage feeling like a cage. He apologized profusely, but the damage was done, leaving me to grapple with the betrayal that had reshaped my world. Evan listened silently, his loyalty to both brothers evident yet torn. Back home, the confrontation with our families was explosive, my father demanding we cut ties with Ethan to protect the merger, while Evan's mother pleaded for forgiveness, citing the twins' bond as unbreakable. Internal conflicts raged within me, the awakening that my feelings for Ethan had been superficial compared to the deepening respect and attraction growing for Evan. Moral dilemmas intensified. Was it ethical to pursue this marriage when it began in force? Societal judgment weighed heavily, with articles in local papers questioning the legitimacy of our union and hinting at underlying family manipulations. We faced public scrutiny at events where old acquaintances whispered about the swap, forcing us to present a united front. One night, after a particularly brutal argument about trust, Evan broke down, admitting his own secret. He had harbored feelings for me long before the wedding, watching from afar as I dated his brother but never acting on them out of respect. The confession shifted everything, sparking a tentative exploration of our emotions, careful and honest without rushing into physicality. Decisions loomed large as the merger signing approached. Staying married meant committing to a life of potential happiness built on pain, while divorcing risked financial collapse and family disgrace. The price each paid was clear: my parents' health declining under stress, Evan's sacrifice of independence, and my own emotional scars. A major turning point came during a storm that knocked out power in the valley, leaving us isolated in the estate. In the candlelight, we shared vulnerabilities, discussing dreams beyond business, Evan revealing a desire to expand sustainable farming practices, and I admitting my wish for a life less dictated by expectations. This quiet intimacy fostered a bond stronger than the original romance, highlighting themes of choice and growth. But when Ethan returned unexpectedly, demanding a share of the business, the confrontation turned physical, not violent, but emotionally charged, with accusations flying and old wounds reopening. The betrayal extended to family lies. My parents had known about Ethan's doubts but pushed forward anyway, prioritizing legacy over happiness. As we navigated these trials, the tension built to a breaking point where awakenings promised transformation or total ruin. With the merger finally signed under a cloud of ongoing drama, life settled into a fragile normalcy, but undercurrents of unrest persisted. Evan and I began attending couples counseling recommended by a trusted advisor to unpack the layers of trauma from the runaway and forced union. Sessions revealed deep-seated issues: my fear of abandonment rooted in childhood pressures, and Evan's resentment at always being second best. The psychologist challenged us to examine the controversial choice of proceeding with the marriage. Was it salvation or self-deception? Outside therapy, societal prejudices continued to test us, with invitations drying up and business partners questioning our stability. We countered by focusing on the vineyards, implementing changes that reflected our shared vision, sustainability, and community involvement that slowly rebuilt our reputation. A significant sacrifice came when Evan confronted his father about the twins' unequal treatment, leading to a rift that strained family ties but freed him emotionally. I supported him fully, our partnership evolving from obligation to partnership. Yet the past refused to stay buried when Ethan's girlfriend reached out revealing she was pregnant, and Ethan wanted to reconcile with the family for the child's sake. This news triggered a cascade of decisions, each with high stakes: my choice to forgive partially for closure versus Evan's protective stance against further disruption. The emotional toll was immense, nights filled with doubt and discussions about whether love could truly flourish from such origins. We took a trip to the coast to clear our heads, walking beaches and talking about futures free from Napa's shadows. There, under starry skies, we shared our first genuine kiss, a moment of tenderness that marked a turning point away from shadows toward possibility. Conflicts peaked with a board meeting where investors demanded transparency about the swap, risking the entire deal. I stood firm, defending our marriage as real, and earned the speech, drawing on personal growth and commitment. The vote passed narrowly, but the victory was bittersweet as it exposed lingering doubts. Internally, I wrestled with the morality of it all. Had we paid too high a price in hurt and lies? Evan proved his dedication by choosing me over a lucrative offer to manage a vineyard in Oregon, staying to build our life together. Betrayals from within the family surfaced when my sister admitted leaking gossip for personal gain, leading to her estrangement but also a cleansing of toxic influences. As we faced these trials, the bond strengthened, forged in fire, and awakening us to the value of authentic choices over forced ones. The story raced toward its climax with revelations that would force final reckonings and the true test of our resilience. The final confrontation arrived on the anniversary of the wedding day, when Ethan showed up at the estate with his newborn son in tow, demanding inclusion in the family business. The scene was chaotic, accusations flying between brothers as old grievances erupted. I stood beside Evan, my hand in his, drawing strength from our journey. We listened to Ethan's pleas, acknowledging his mistakes but firmly setting boundaries to protect the life we had built. The family gathered in the Great Hall, a tense summit where truths poured out, my parents admitting their role in pushing the arrangement, Evan's father confessing favoritism, and I voicing the profound impact on my psyche. Resolutions came slowly, with agreements to restructure shares and seek mediation, but the emotional cost was permanent. Some relationships mended, others severed forever. Through it all, my love for Evan had transformed from reluctant acceptance to profound commitment. We renewed our vows privately in the vineyard at dawn, a simple ceremony symbolizing choice over force. The awakenings were hard-won, recognizing that while the initial decision was controversial, it led to growth and a love deeper than the original. Societal pressures eased as our success in the business won respect, and we advocated quietly for more open dialogues on arranged unions in modern contexts. The price paid lingered in scars, but also in wisdom, each character transformed by the events. Evan and I stood stronger, ready to face the future as true partners. In the end, after all the drama, betrayals, and sacrifices, the question remains: was marrying the twin brother ultimately the right choice despite starting in deception?